Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to your Daily Penguin. This is our tour through my Penguin Classic wall, that wall behind me. Book by book and author by author, we're just seeing what kind of stuff we see. I'm still getting used to the placement of the camera so that I have a place to show you. So I think this is probably more natural than me being in the middle of the frame. But in any case, today we have a book that all of you will be familiar with, especially in America. You will almost certainly have been assigned this at schools. This is O Pioneers by Willa Cather from 1913. And I'm not overly fond of this cover. The previous cover for this that Penguin Classics did was, I believe, just a field of daisies that I liked a lot better. And once upon a time, I would have told you that I wasn't all that fond of this author either. I've gone decades just running cold on this author, not understanding what she was trying to do, not thinking there was a whole lot of art involved in what she was trying to do. Recently, just in the last couple of years, it was just a few years ago that I was trading sarcastic quips with a fellow reviewer friend of mine, and he sardonically said, "Well, don't tell anybody that you find Willa Cather's novels boring, because that is ex-Cather. You're not allowed to say that." And I chuckled, but then I thought, okay, well, that if that's the common understood but not spoken wisdom, then maybe I want to tilt against it. So I went back and reread My Antonia and O Pioneers, and I clicked. I love it when that happens. I love it when the tumblers have been moving around inside my head, and in the meantime, and then I revisit her work, and all of a sudden everything is fine. All of a sudden I get it. I love it when that happens. It's humbling, but that's probably good for me. And I read especially O Pioneers and saw right away what Willa Cather was trying to do, and loved it. It romanticizes the American prairie. Now, I don't know if it doesn't romanticize. It does romanticize it, but it doesn't idealize it. And I don't know how many of you, if those of you who are not from America, and including a lot of you who are from America, might not know what the prairie is. I've met a lot of people who went, just an hour south of Chicago or west of Chicago and thought, okay, now I know what the American prairie is like. And no, you don't. No, you don't have any idea. The American prairie is not the Midwest. The open prairie is something completely different, and it doesn't have anything to recommend it. I guess it has a kind of Wyeth-style charm to it, but it's 10 months of winter, and there's no landscape, and it feels like the sort of semi-barren wasteland surface of an alien world. An alien world that in Star Trek is technically Class M, but that you wouldn't want to live. You wouldn't want to live there. No offense to people who might live, for instance, in the prairies that I'm talking about. I don't want to dig myself into trouble here, but that always jarred on me with these novels. The novel, Willa Cather didn't only write about the prairies, but when she did, they are a glowing, living element in the books, like in this book. And that always baffled me, because I've spent lots of time on the prairies, and they're no place you want to spend lots of time on. The wind, that when it reaches you, has been picking up grit and freezing cold for 10 days. But I reread this recently. I don't know why I have this Penguin Classic. Maybe it's for the reason I have a lot of Penguin Classics. I'm just kind of waiting until I find a really nice, odd, idiosyncratic version that I want, even if it's another Penguin Classic. I believe that another edition of Penguin Classics look better than this. But I read it, I revisited it and loved it, so I can recommend it to you as your Penguin Classic. This is, it's not a long novel. It'll take you, an hour and a half to read. And the characters are simple. The editor of this volume, what's her name? Blanche Gelfand, makes a really good point. Others have made it before. People in my, I have a bookshelf of books devoted to books about authors writing about books. A lot of those authors make the same point, which is that Willa Cather turns ordinary people into dramatic characters in a way that we say that about lots of authors, but then when you look at the actual characters, they're melodramatic in the extreme. Willa Cather doesn't really do that, and it works. Whatever she does, the magic that she does works, and she felt it with this book. O Pioneers was the first clear and true example where she decided to do that wonderful thing that every writer needs to do at some point or other. Every writer needs to do that, have that moment where they sit down at their writing table and they say, deadlines be damned, sales be damned. I know the book I am here to write, and I am going to write it. Every great book in the history of the world was written that way. Now, a lot of second-rate, very, very good books were written because the author had an eye on a deadline or on money. But there's a magic that happens when an author sits at their writing table and says, well, I know what I was planning, and I know what looks good and what sounds good, and I know what my agent wants. This is the book that I want to write. And this is the first time that Willa Cather did that. And the magic shows, I think. I don't know how I missed it so many other times. So your penguin for today is a recommend, and I want to recommend something else as well, a penguin adjacent recommend that I cannot praise highly enough. And that is this. This is from Knopf from a few years ago. This is edited by Andrew Jewell and Janice Stout, and it's the selected letters of Willa Cather. Big, heavy volume with deckled edges and plenty of illustrations. And I was blown away by this when it first came out. When was that? 2013. So before we knew each other. I was blown away by it, and I considered it then, and I've gone back to it many times since to only reinforce my opinion that this is the best biography of Willa Cather that's ever been written. There have been others, and they've felt to me a little dutiful, a little on the academic side, but this is just her and her friends just talking. And that is an incredible experience. So if you can find, I don't know if this is out in paperback, I don't know if I'm blurbed on the paperback, but if you can find a copy of this thing, or if your library has it, I would suggest reading this before you read any of the novels or short stories. And also, I would suggest reading this if, like me, you read O Pioneers or My Antonia and didn't like it, thought maybe it was boring, flat, inscrutable even. If you felt those things, read this book, and you'll want to go back to them. And I believe you'll see them in a different light. I thought this was an amazing book, so I had to hold it up to you. O Pioneers was dedicated to Sarah Orne Jewett, the memory of Sarah Orne Jewett, Willa Cather's friend. And when I took this volume off the shelf, I'm not planning these Penguin episodes ahead of time, so I didn't know what I was going to encounter. And when I saw, every time I see that dedication, I'm reminded that I don't think I have a Penguin classic of Sarah Orne Jewett, any of her. And even if I did, it would only be her one famously reprinted book, not any of the rest of the stuff that she wrote, which is a terrible, terrible shame. Because I don't know if it's just me championing the underdog, or maybe it's that I know the estimation that my friend Deb holds her in. It could be that Sarah Orne Jewett is a better writer even than Willa Cather. She certainly isn't anywhere near the standing in the canon, and I think that's a shame. So when I see that dedication, I immediately wonder, do you have Country of Pointed Firs anywhere in here? We'll find out together. I'm not going to go looking for it, because that would add an artificial element to these daily penguins that I don't want them to have. So I'm going to wrap this up for now, but we'll see what we encounter tomorrow. So I'll see you then. Thank you, BookTube.